Hello guys and welcome to my new video. So patch 7.3.2 is here with a lot of kind of unexpected changes, or changes that people probably thought is going to happen a bit later down the line. So beside what we saw in the official patch notes for 7.3.2, where you saw really kind of irrelevant changes, Convergence okay is getting nerfed, Whisper in the Darkness was getting nerfed, these trinkets were already too powerful, fine, nerf them, we don't need them anymore. And you're kind of like, okay, that's fine. But there has been a lot more changes that happen, and it's to do with the tiers. Multiple classes have had their tier 20, tier 19 nerfed. So this nerf is coming in for at a time that it's probably going to be around 4 weeks. It's probably going to be around 4 weeks before patch 7.35 hits, and there's probably going to be some time before Taurus is released. So the thing is that a lot of people are still progressing on either Mythic or Heroic or whatever. Right now I'm progressing on Mythical Jade, and so actually one of the changes here you can see is Resto Druid tier 19 4-piece has been nerfed from 1.5% to 1%. This is actually a pretty significant nerf, which kind of means that if you have a high item level tier 20, previously it was somewhere around like in a ballpark of 20 item levels to 30 item levels for each piece that your tier 20 was higher, you probably will start swapping to tier 20. Because of this nerf, most likely that number is going to shrink by a large amount, and you're probably going to be using tier 20 for a lot of the Taurus fight, not Taurus fights, for a lot of the Tomb of Sargeras fights, and especially for a lot of the progression fights. So, Resto Druid tier 19, big nerfs, start looking to get tier 20, start looking to get replacements and things like that. Resto Druids were not the only ones hit by this. As you can see in here, a lot of the tier 20s has been changed, tier 21s have been changed. We don't care about tier 21s yet, because there is still some time for tier 21 to be tuned. There's probably not going to be major changes made to tier 21, maybe some number tuning, but that's about it. So Marksmanship Hunters had their 4 set, it says 4 set. It's not actually 4 set, it's actually the 2 set that has been nerfed. There's problems with the way data mining works here, but casting 2 aim shots in a row increases your critical strike damage by 15% for 6 seconds. It's been nerfed to 10% for 6 seconds. So right now, Marksmanship Hunters are going to be dealing less damage. From what I've seen, it's nothing that's going to say that Marksmanship Hunters are not going to be the best anymore. I want to go survival, or I want to go BM. It's nothing like that. Marksmanship still seems to be the top. It's just a damage nerf basically. You can also see that a Mage tier 24 set, the cooldown of Frozen Orb is reduced by 4 seconds whenever you gain Brain Freeze. So Frost Mage damage for 4-piece has been nerfed. This is just an overall, it doesn't seem like a massive nerf, but it's just something small to reduce the effectiveness of tier 20. Now the weirdest changes that I've seen is the monks. The Windwalker monks have really been getting the hammers the whole of Tomb of Sargeras. Honestly, as probably one of the weakest classes in Tomb of Sargeras, where I did the melee comparison. There's probably a discussion in the video below as well. I did a melee comparison. They're probably the weakest melee class, and they're getting their tier 19 2-piece nerfed and the 4-piece nerfed as well, tier 24 piece as well. So a lot of the Windwalker monks were actually trying to do a combination of tier 19 and tier 20, or they were looking of doing combination of tier 20 and tier 21. A lot of Windwalker playstyle was to do with getting 6 tier pieces. So from what it seems like, it's anywhere between 5% to 8% DPS nerf. Like, I mean, this is kind of ridiculous. This is the weirdest change that I've seen. I mean, I don't know what Blizzard is trying to do here. Nerfing the class that's already at the bottom. I don't know. Maybe this is to showcase that Windwalkers are going to do so bad that on Taurus they're gonna get a massive buff or something like that. This just baffles me right now. I really don't know what's happening with Windwalkers here, but maybe they'll get a massive buff. And also the Disc Priest 2-piece bonus. The first Bolt of Light from a Penance deals an additional 100%. It's been up to 65% damage, or heals for an additional 65%. This nerf is completely justified because the Disc Priest 2-piece bonus is probably it's one of the strongest 2-piece healing bonuses. Even with this nerf, it seems the Disc Priest will still want to get tier 22 piece with tier 21 4-piece as well. So even with the nerf, tier 22 piece still seems pretty good and pretty strong. It probably was just too powerful at the moment. Resto Druid 2-piece maybe going to be nerfed after this, I don't know, but something to actually consider. So besides this, there hasn't been any tier 20 or tier 19 nerfs for other classes. Like I mentioned, Windwalkers have been I don't know, Blizzard, what are you doing? Either way, besides this, besides the massive tier 19 and tier 20 changes, like I said, Resto Druids are going to be really affected. A lot of the classes are going to be affected right now doing progression, which is quite sad. You also have to consider that there's been some hotfixes made for 7.3.2. The biggest ones here, Protection Paladins and Vengeance Demon Hunters. Vengeance Demon Hunter stamina bonus increase from 65 to 55, and kind of the same thing from Protection Paladins, bonus increase from 40 to 40% from 30%. So what am I going to say about these? I think it's completely justified. I think Vengeance Demon Hunters and Protection Paladins have probably been one of the weaker tanking classes. Vengeance Demon Hunters do much better in Mythic Plus, but at the same time, I feel these two tank classes are probably the spikiest in the game. I mean, at the end of the day, Demon Hunters do have incredible tools to self-heal, but it's never nice to actually see a tank drop to 10 or 20% HP after they go into a trash pack pull or whatever. They're too spiky. I even feel even the stamina bonus might not be enough. I think it's just part of a process to actually maybe bring them in line with something like Guardian Druids or Brewmaster Monks or something along those lines. But it's a very justified change. Besides that, we saw some really needed Seed of Triumvirate nerfs. Seed of Triumvirate, especially the ads, are just dealing way too much damage. On affixes like Fortified, it just becomes one of the worst dungeons. It seems to happen every time. Every time Blizzard introduces a new dungeon, they overtune it way too much compared to what the old dungeons were like. So after a couple of weeks you see these changes, and after a couple of weeks you see a lot of more people trying to say, hey, Seed of Triumvirate is not that bad anymore, we can actually try and do something. The same thing happened to Cathedral and things like that. So these have been the changes for 7.3.2. Besides that, you also had the legendary catch-up system. As you can see, as you saw before, I made a video about the legendary catch-up system, where if you have legendary, all the legendaries for your class, screw you if you're a druid, because they have 4 specs. But if you have all the legendaries for your specific class, you start getting these kind of tokens. Apparently these are random tokens, completely random. You might not even have any alts. You might be just playing Shaman and you'll get a warrior token. So start leveling warrior and start getting legendaries from it. But either way, this catch-up system is not a catch-up system at all, and very few people are actually going to be affected by this. Only the people who have played a lot are actually got very lucky to have all of the legends at the moment, and there are quite a few, but it's a very small percentage of the population. It's not going to affect that as well. There's also Druid's Lunar Wing Owl form now finally makes an owl sound instead of a raven. These are the kind of changes we want to see, Blizzard. This right here, this right here is the changes I want to see as a druid. But let's go on to a serious topic before actually covering this. Before actually going over the possible changes that are going to happen in 7.3.5. So there's going to be a class balancing changes that are going to happen, like I said, in 7.3.5. In the PTR, before 7.3.2 was released, in the PTR there were a lot of class buffs, just a straight up buffs to all of the abilities, or most of the abilities a class had. It was just aura buffs basically. So that what it meant basically, your primary abilities would just deal more damage. And there were a lot of changes in the 7.3.2 PTR that did not make it, or did not seem to make it into live. So I'm presuming that these changes are going to come in either before Antorus is released or somewhere very close when Antorus is released. And these are the changes from like a month ago. There's a possibility, there's a high chance they're going to change, but it's an indication of where Blizzard is going and how Blizzard is going to actually, which class do they think needs the biggest buff. So you can see here that Blood didn't get really much. Frost got a 5% buff. You can see here the value used to be 23%. It got changed to 28 to the following abilities. So you can say it's a 5% buff to these abilities, which does not mean it's a 5% overall increase for everything, because for a lot of the auras, not all of the spells are included. But like I said, it's a 5% increase to Frost. Unholy didn't really get anything. Havoc got a 3% increase to a lot of the abilities. Feral got a 3% increase as well to a majority of the damage abilities as well. Beastmaster Hunters, thank God, got an increase of at least 6%, which is quite sizable for a lot of the abilities. Completely justifiable. Survival got a 5% increase, again, justifiable. Marksmanship didn't get anything. Mages didn't really get touched too much. This is where we see Windwalkers. Windwalkers got probably the biggest 9% increase aura changes for a lot of the abilities. So maybe Blizzard is nerfing the Windwalker tiers to prepare you for a huge Windwalker buffs in 7.3.5. It has to be. I mean, Blizzard is annihilating Windwalker class right now. I think the last couple of months have been really, really hard for any Windwalker out there. And then besides that, you see a lot of rogue changes. You see Assassination being buffed by 6%. You see Outlaw being buffed by 6%. And you see Subtlety being buffed by 2%. Even though Subtlety is one of the best melee classes out there, Subtlety is being buffed. And you can see that the dragging specs for rogues, such as Outlaw and Assassination, have had a bit more sizable increase. And these are the changes that were predicted to come in for 7.3.5. You never know. Don't take my word for it. It's just an indication of what Blizzard thinks, what classes need a bigger change or whatever. For right now, the only things that have changed: Protection Paladins, Demon Hunters have been buffed. Tier 20 for Marksman Hunters, Tier 19 for Resto Druids, Tier 20 for Frost Mages have been nerfed. Windwalkers have been deleted from the game. Disc Priest 2-piece have been nerfed, completely viable, completely justifiable. At the same time, completely viable still. These are the biggest changes that have changed. So thank you for looking at this little video of overview. Hopefully it wasn't too long. Let me know how you feel about the tier nerfs. I feel the tier nerfs that came in too quickly. They should have waited a month. I really feel they should have waited until before the Antorus is released. Right now it's kind of hindering a lot of the classes, and I feel because this tier, arguably Tomb of Sargeras, has been one of the hardest raids ever. There is very few, the percentage of people who have actually killed Mythical Jade, the percentage of people that have actually killed Mythic Avatar is so low that I feel that majority of the hardcore gamers are still progressing in Tomb of Sargeras, and these nerfs are going to affect the following classes in a great way. Let me know how you feel about the changes. Let me know how you feel about your class. And I'll see you in my next little guide.